in the future. All right, Tim, let's shift gears now and talk about the injury report, man. I told you we had a lot to cover, and we're actually staying on time pretty good here. Look at us being professional, Tim.
Look at that.
Yeah. Don't get used to it, folks. All right. This ain't going to happen very often. I promise you that. So, injury report dropped. And again, this is one of those, Tim, where they didn't actually practice. It was more of a walkthrough setting. But nonetheless, it still kind of gives you an idea of where these players are. And as Rob Nomofsky tweeted the injury report out over on X, he says only one DNP for the Packers today. All right. That did not participate was Bo Melton with the knee injury. Now, listen. I think that could be a big loss for the Packers. We know he wears all those different hats. He's arguably our best special teams player, right, in terms of kick coverage. And remind me again how many kick return or punt return touchdowns we've given up this year, right? It's 0 to the best of my knowledge.
I was going to say a big nothing burger,
big
right?
Goose, right? So he's a big player in that. You can't look at that stat and go, man, that's a great number, and then not give credit to the players that are making those plays and making that happen right now. Do we have players lying in the wait to step in there and make? Absolutely. I think Colin Oliver's one that could be sneaky good on kick coverage, right? He's just got the versatility. He's got that athleticism. I could see him doing it, but I just don't want to downplay this. Bo Melton did not participate too much with the knee because, Tim, that's an important part. I forget receiver, forget cornerback, special teams alone. That may decide this game as you're going in banged up into Chicago to try to beat the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I agree, especially considering the guys that we have banged up on special teams. You talk about Zane Anderson out. Whether Bo's a corner, a receiver, or a special teamer, he's a valuable piece on this team. So I don't think you can understate the possibility that he doesn't play. I mean, maybe he does. We never know. We could get a limited tomorrow. We could get a limited going into this weekend, and maybe he's questionable going into the game. But, if Bo's not out there, your team is going to take a step back when it comes to special teams unit for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of the rest of the injury report for the Packers, let's go down the line with the limited participation, okay? Warren Brinson with the foot, Javon Bullard with the knee, Edgerrin Cooper with the shoulder, and then you've got Nick Nyman, linebacker with the pec, all right? And he's, the practice window's open. He hasn't been activated yet, okay? Zach Tom with the back/knee, all right? Lucas Van Ness, actually his full participation, we'll get that in a minute. Dontavion Wicks with the concussion, limited. Sounds like he's going to be good to go. I imagine he's progressing through the concussion protocol. John Williams, the practice window is open. He hasn't been activated yet with the back. He was limited. And Malik Willis with the right shoulder/hamstring was listed as limited as well. Now, when we bounce back to the top of the list here, Tim, Javon Bullard, I'm hearing he's good to go. So that's a great sign. Obviously, when he grabbed his knee and hit that turf against Minnesota, I went, oh, crap, this could be huge here, right? So Bullard has played much, much better this year. He's grading out in the 60s according to PFF. We've seen him. I want to say he has the best passer rating when targeted of all cornerbacks on the roster as well. And I know he plays slot, but still, that's a big deal for him. That's a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, he's a dog, DAWG, not just because he went to the University of Georgia, but he's a dog. If he can walk, he can run, he can play. That's his attitude. You've seen his post-game, locker room interviews. This is the type of dude you want on your team. And him being limited today, in a quote-unquote practice walkthrough scenario is a good sign. I'm looking for tomorrow. I believe tomorrow's a padded practice. I would anticipate he'd probably be limited or maybe a full participant. But bottom line, you're going to have to handcuff that guy to the railing if you don't want him to play. And I love it. Love Javon Bullard.
Yeah, now Edgerrin Cooper limited with the shoulder. Obviously, he would have played last week if they weren't holding starters out, so he's good to go there. Nothing to worry about. Zach Tom, it sounds like he's good to go. Everything I'm hearing out of 1265 is he will be playing. So this holding guys out, it worked. Now, how bad does it hurt your momentum, right? That's going to be the big question. So we got to come out there and fire on all cylinders. I know Matt's chomping at the bit to get the guys out there in an actual practice tomorrow, not a simulated injury report here. So hopefully we don't see any setbacks. Guys, what we're looking for on Wednesday is we don't want to see anybody on Wednesday's list in the bold, right, Tim? We don't want to see anybody having a setback. Hopefully that does not happen. And you know what? If they need to be limited the rest of the week, I'm totally good with that, Tim. Let's just get
– and I'm sure that's the attitude, right, I think the staff's probably got that attitude, right? You trust these guys that biggest game of the year on the road in Chicago. If we got to hold them out or make them limited so that they're, at 100% or as close to they can be at 100% on Saturday night, we'll take it, right? You trust your veterans. You trust your even your young players, leaders on this team, guys that are playing through injury, for sure.
Yeah. And then full participation, Matthew Golden with the Achilles, he's good to go, full participation, so no worries there. Lucas Van Ness with the foot injury, full participation, so they let him rest up another week last week. I think he's going to be ready to play with his hair on fire. And we're going to talk we're going to go through the Chicago Bears side here real quick at the injury report, but after this segment, we're going to dive into a little Barron Sorrell, which is kind of surprised, man. To me, it looks like they're going to use Barron Sorrell like they use LVN. It's almost like he's going to be LVN's backup, if that makes sense.
Here's
so
a guy.
I'll explain what that means here in a minute, talking about 3-tech, 4-eye, that type of alignment, right? And one of those guys that'll play more 5 than a 9, or not necessarily more, but he's going to be your 5-tech guy as opposed to someone who's a dominant 9-tech guy. So, again, that is your update on the Packers injury report. Looking over to the Chicago Bears side here, Tim, same thing applies. The Bears held a walkthrough on Tuesday. Participation reports are an estimation. CJ Gardner, well, actually, let's start with the did not participate. CJ Gardner-Johnson is the only he's not. He's one of 3 did not participate. To me, it's the biggest one, though.
Yeah.
He got a concussion, right? And you guys know when you go into the practice week, Wednesday will be the tail of the tape, right? If he's did not participate Wednesday again, he's probably going to be out this week. Probably going to be out anyway, is my guess, being in concussion protocol. That could be huge. Tim, didn't he have an interception against the Packers their first meeting this year? Wasn't he the one who picked that pass off in the middle of the field from Jordan Love?
He did. He did.
So,
but he also got his ass cooked a few times in our matchups. And, if he's not in the lineup on Saturday, we as Packer fans might miss him a little bit. But, I'm not going to drag him. But you're right. Concussions are tough. If he's not looking, positive going into the end of the week, he's probably not going to play, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, other did not participate. Joe Tryon Shayinka, defensive lineman with the concussion, did not participate. Probably not going to be ready by game time. I would imagine that's the same thing applies. It's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely those 2 guys will be available. And then Jade Walker, wide receiver with an illness, did not participate. I imagine he'll probably be good to go by the time the game gets here. Now you switch gears to limited participation, right? Kyler Gordon, defensive back with the groin. Now, keep in mind, he's on the reserve/injured, designated for return. So they're still trying to get him out there, right? So there's a chance that Kyler Gordon might be activated by the time the game gets here. He was limited. As you can see, it's kind of like John Williams and Nick Nyman on our roster, right? So there's at any moment they could hit, activate, and they're off and running, but also without knowing too much information behind the scenes, they may be a little bit further away, like I feel like John Williams is, right? I don't see any reason why you would activate John Williams with the back injury unless you just want to try to get a little bit of tape out there, going into the offseason. Maybe that's the case as well. But Braxton Jones, offensive lineman with the knee, he was full participation, but also in that 21-day window there. Limited was DJ Moore with the knee. That one's very interesting, along with Rome Odunze, who has a foot injury. So you got 2 of their top wide receivers, Tim. It's basically DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and then, of course, who's our boy, the rookie? Really, really good rookie.
Colston Loveland?
No, not the tight end. Give me just a second. Luther Burden.
Luther Burden, Mr. Grab Keyshawn by the throat himself. Yes.
And I hate that he's a douche because he's such a good football player, man. We had him as the 3rd best receiver on our PTA big board, and, man, he has lived up to the hype. He is a good football player. But, nonetheless, your top 3 receivers there are DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Luther Burden. If one of those 2 guys, or possibly both, don't go, Tim, that's huge. What I think will happen, though, I think they will both be active. And now the question will be, is it the same thing that happened to Rome Odunze before where he was active, played a few snaps, dang, the foot ain't healthy? That could be something that comes into play. But those 2, man, I'm keeping my eye on a setback there. If they go full participation or stay limited the rest of the week, we're probably going to have to deal with the Chicago Bears being pretty darn healthy at wide receiver.
Yeah, or as close to it as they can be, right? I think DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are 2 names you want to keep your eye on, for sure. But bottom line, man, it's win or go home, right? I think both teams, Packers and Bears, are going to be looking to get guys on the field. And if we got to pull them off or we got to keep them on a snap count, I'll take 20 or 30 snaps from one of my top guys in the last game potentially of the season if it means we can possibly advance versus holding them out, planning for a game in the future that may or may not exist. So I would anticipate the Bears have the same attitude, and DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are the two names to keep your eye on. I think Luther Burden's probably going to go for sure, right? Being that he's not on the injury report.
Yeah, he's good to go for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, he is tougher than a $2 steak. Again, I hate that he's such a douche because he is a really good football player. He plays the game the right way, plays hard. He's not afraid of contact, all those things. It just seems like he got a little man syndrome. It's almost like he's an extension of Ben Johnson there. So,
but like you've said before, though, Clay, like he's a rookie, right? And sometimes you see guys mature. They go into their second or third year, they mature as players. So hopefully that's not a long-term thing for him, because I know looking at our PTA big board, Luther Burden was definitely on the radar. He was one of our favorites going into last year's draft.
And I remember specifically people saying they didn't like him. And I remember hearing Greg Cosell talk about him. Oh, I don't know, man. Luther Burden kind of feel him and Emeka Egbuka were the two that I was like, those two. And obviously Tet McMillan. Tet McMillan was going to be a slam dunk, right?
And obviously my boy Jaden Higgins, Iowa State,
Right. There was a lot of fun wide receivers to break down for sure, man. But it's going to be interesting as we get into draft season this year too. Yes, so the final one here on the injury report, Ozzie Trapillo, rookie offensive lineman, quadricep, limited participation as well, something to kind of keep an eye on there. Let's hit this super chat, and then we'll move on. Caterpillar with the super. Thank you so much, buddy. He says, if Javon Bullard isn't 100%, it might open the door to seeing Diggs and CV outside and K9 in the slot, where I believe he played best. I think it would be worth at least taking a look at. What's your thoughts? I respectfully disagree, Caterpillar. In my personal opinion, I think Keyshawn has played significantly better on the outside than he ever did in the slot. That's just my opinion based off watching the tape and obviously going through all the analytics. Now, this season, Keyshawn struggled. There's no doubt about it. We say that, but the first matchup against the Bears, he got the game-winning interception in the end zone, right? Yeah. So he's made plays too. Through the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season, he was leading the National Football League in PBUs. Now, I personally – hindsight being 2020, was really fired up at the time. But now as you get in the back half of the season, what you're seeing teams do is they're throwing double moves at Keyshawn Nixon. And the reason being, why did he have so many PBUs? He's very aggressive, biting underneath. Somebody runs an out route, he's biting. Somebody runs a slant, he's jumping the route, right? However, if they run a sluggo, a slant, and a go double move, he's cooked. If they run an out and an up or a stick nod, he's cooked. So positive and negative of someone who plays like that. With that being said, I personally feel like Keyshawn plays better on the outside than in the slot. And I definitely want Trayvon Diggs based off of what I've seen, and it's a small sample size, but what I've seen, I want him starting over Carrington Valentine. Now, people say, well, why don't you start him over Keyshawn and put Carrington out there? Carrington plays left cornerback. Trayvon Diggs plays right cornerback, okay? Carrington plays right cornerback. That's from the defensive perspective. So he's going to take Carrington's place over Keyshawn's, right?
And we probably trust Trayvon Diggs and CV a lot less in the slot, right? We'd prefer them on the outside.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So the real question is, being a little bit thin at safety, I'm assuming we're going to have X. We're going to have Evan Williams. Beyond that, Oladapo. So who is your, let's just say for craps and giggles that Bull's not a good to go. Who's our slot? Who are you moving into the slot in that scenario?
I think strategically, in terms of deployment, there might be snaps where you throw Oladapo in there, but I'm with Caterpillar that if I had to choose, all right, who's going to be your slot corner if Bull can't go, I'm putting Keyshawn in the slot, and we're going to have to make one of these guys play out of place. And I imagine it would be Trayvon Diggs playing left cornerback as opposed to trying to make Carrington play over there, because we have never seen Carrington play left cornerback. He's always played right cornerback.
I'm glad you said that, because my thought was, do you move a safety? Do you move McKinney down into the slot and then move a Keyshawn or somebody back to safety?
It's possible. I think it's possible, but also we had to keep in mind that the Bears love operating out of 12 personnel, which means we're going to be in our base 4-3 the majority of the time, right? So
Good point. Good
if
point.
if a safety goes down or Javon Bullard can't play, then it's not going to be as big of a deal against Chicago. But what will happen is, like, say Evan Williams goes down, you'll probably put Bullard back there at safety, right? And I hate even speaking about this. You guys know injuries are part of the game. It sucks. We know that more than anybody this year. But yeah, that's kind of how I would look at it for sure. So,
For sure.
Caterpillar, thank you so much for the super chat. And before we move on, if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments. How do you feel about the injury report? Do you like the way the Packers handled this whole injury situation? How do you feel about the Bears' health? Do you think that both of those receivers, both DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, will be good to go on Sunday? Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon.